It was nearly midnight when the quiet calm of Willow Creek Estates shattered under the beam of headlights. A black woman, exhausted after a 14-hour shift, parked outside her own home, ready to retreat into peace. Instead, within seconds, the click of a gun's safety being released froze her in place. A jittery HOA security guard, fueled by suspicion rather than reason, aimed a trembling weapon at her chest, demanding she prove she belonged. What he never imagined was that his suspect was no ordinary woman. She was an elite FBI tactical commander, trained to confront far deadlier threats. Willow Creek Estates prided itself on safety, a gated community lined with polished driveways, trimmed hedges, and ornamental fountains. Behind this image of suburban serenity was an HOA board obsessed with appearances and keeping things in order. For years, the board had contracted a cheap, barely trained security outfit, more symbolic than professional. That night, stationed in a small booth near the entrance, was Carl Dempsey. Mid-40s, stocky, and deeply insecure, Carl was not a real officer. His uniform resembled authority, but his training consisted of 2 online modules and a few shadow shifts. Carl enjoyed the badge stitched on his chest. It gave him power he rarely felt in his own life. When he saw the black woman's SUV roll past his booth without the slow, deferential wave he was used to, his suspicion flared. Residents, in his mind, were supposed to fit a certain image. Her casual hoodie, fatigue, and natural hair didn't match that picture. He decided he needed to check her out. Her name was Commander Jordan Hayes. 36 years old, she was one of the FBI's most respected tactical leaders. Jordan had overseen hostage rescues, counterterrorism raids, and coordinated dangerous operations where one wrong call could mean dozens of lives lost. But tonight, she wasn't Commander Hayes. She was simply Jordan, the tired neighbor who wanted to get home. Jordan lived alone in Willow Creek, drawn by its quiet promise of safety. She had bought the home after her promotion, believing she'd finally earned the right to relax when off duty. For her, the gated entrance wasn't just about status. It was about belonging somewhere she could breathe. As she pulled into her driveway, Jordan grabbed her gym bag, unaware that Carl had followed her in his security cart. Carl rolled to a stop, blocking her car partially with his cart. His hand rested nervously near the holster at his side. "Ma'am," he barked, his tone sharp, "you don't look familiar. Do you live here?" Jordan paused, tired but calm. "Yes, this is my house," she replied, gesturing to the porch light she had left on. Carl narrowed his eyes. "I'm going to need proof. Show me ID. You can't just walk in here at this hour." Jordan felt her pulse quicken, not from fear, but from recognition. She had seen this before, the assumption that her skin color made her suspect, even on, her own property. "Sir, I don't need to prove to you that I belong in my own home," she said firmly, setting down her bag. That's when Carl's insecurity turned to aggression. His hand pulled his sidearm free, pointing it squarely at her chest. "Don't move!" he shouted. Jordan froze, assessing. Years of tactical training kicked in. Observe, de-escalate, survive. She raised her hand slowly. "You're making a mistake," she said evenly. "I live here. My badge is inside." Carl's hands shook. He was no trained officer. His mind swirled with fear and bias. Neighbors, stirred by the shouting, peeked out from windows. A few even stepped onto porches, cell phones raised. Jordan realized then, this wasn't just about her safety. This was about exposing a system of ignorance and fear that could have cost her life. With deliberate calm, she spoke. "Listen carefully. I am a federal agent. I suggest you lower that weapon before you do something you'll regret." Carl scoffed. "Yeah, right. Federal agent? You think I'm stupid?" Jordan moved slowly, reaching into her bag. With precision, she revealed her credentials. an FBI badge and tactical commander ID glinting under the porch light. The sight nearly knocked Carl backward. His face paled. Murmurs rippled through the gathering neighbors. The suspect was not a trespasser. She was law enforcement at the highest level. Within minutes, real police arrived, called not by Carl, but by Jordan herself. When officers questioned her, she calmly explained the sequence of events, detailing how Carl escalated a routine arrival into a life-threatening encounter. Her composure only underscored her credibility. Neighbors' cell phone footage told the rest of the story. Carl pointing a weapon at a homeowner on her own driveway, ignoring her repeated attempts to identify herself, and trembling as he held her at gunpoint. The HOA board scrambled to respond. They had hired Carl's company to save costs, brushing aside recommendations for trained personnel. Now their negligence was public. Local media swarmed, headlines flashing, "HOA security threatens Black FBI commander at gunpoint." Carl was fired within 24 hours, but the damage was done. The community faced lawsuits, federal scrutiny, and a firestorm of outrage. Jordan, though unharmed, carried the weight of the encounter. For her, the issue wasn't just Carl. It was the systemic prejudice that made him see her as a threat instead of a neighbor. Weeks later, Jordan stood at a town hall meeting. The HOA board sat stiffly in front as residents filled the room. She addressed them not as an FBI commander, but as a woman tired of suspicion shadowing her every step. "You hired people who weren't trained to protect. You gave them authority without accountability. And because of that, I could have been another name on a tragic headline. Not because I did something wrong, but because I was seen as out of place in my own home." Silence filled the hall. The truth was undeniable. Jordan's speech sparked reforms. The HOA replaced the security company with professionals. Diversity and bias training became mandatory, but more importantly, the community began to look at itself, not just at policies, but at the quiet prejudices that allowed such a moment to unfold. For Jordan, the incident reaffirmed something she already knew. Courage wasn't only shown on tactical raids or FBI missions. Sometimes it was standing unflinching in your driveway, demanding humanity in the face of ignorance. What Carl never realized that night was this. The woman he pointed a gun at was trained to face terrorists, but her greatest battle remained the one she fought every day, against the subtle, relentless weight of being seen as a stranger in her own home.